Hello, all. It's Alex here once again. Today is December the 14th, 2023. At this point, everything is recorded. Everything that I could record at home is done. The tracks are sent to the studio, and we are going to eventually, because the studio closed for the holidays, and they're only going to come back, I think, on January the 6th. Uh, great, great timing, I guess. Even though for us Brazilians that doesn't really mean anything. Uh, but that's fine because I'm thinking about uh, a release window for the album around like the second quarter of 2024. So timing wise, schedule wise, we're fine. The thing is, one part of the process that I was not able to document because I was so like really into working on this, was the editing of the drum parts, which I did myself. Uh, they send the tracks, the raw drum tracks, to me after I recorded them at the studio, and then I opened them on Reaper and I edited them. So I thought it would be interesting to show how the process was made. So once again, let me. Yes. So once again, I opened. Actually, let me delete this. I opened one of the tracks. To me, it's called 145. I don't know yet what's it going to be called. I know it is going to be the last song on the album. So here are the raw tracks as they are. Uh, no effects or EQ or anything. Okay. Uh, as you can listen to, my drumming is not, you know, exceptional or anything. Even though I do believe that, uh, you know, in order to make my drum tracks serviceable this time, it it required way less effort than on record one. So I think that's good because we're evolving. But yeah, so I have like kick, snare, hi hat, ride, uh, tom toms, 1 2 3, and then floor tom one, floor tom two, and overheads left and right. So first thing that I'm going to do is I line up the tempo. The tempo track, in this case, the song is in 170 BPM, and the time signature is 12 by 8, so it's in triplet time. So 1 2 3, 1 2 3, 1 2 3, 1 2 3. It's like 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, but 1 2 3, 1 2 3, 1 2 3, 1 2 3. So every tempo is counted in three. So what first thing that I'm going to do is that I'm going to group all of the tracks. And I'm going to go here on the grouping preferences and uh, selecting one item selects group, because then I can use one of the tracks as a, you know, as the starting point for the editing. First of all, I'm going to go with the snare. So I'm going to go on the snare. I'm going to actually take off the grid. I'm going to go on the snare track. I'm going to press D, which is the dynamic split. So what this does, it sets a threshold in which after a set amount of volume of amplitude, it triggers the threshold and it counts that this, as an example, as a note, and then it marks it. And when I press this button split, it is going to split this track right at this point, which would be the transient. Which the transient of a hit is the starting point that the hit is heard. So really at the start of a rim shot or a kick being played. So because everything was recorded separate, well, with separate microphones, uh, the snare drum is pretty isolated. So I'm just go like around the track. This track I chose this track to show because it's not that busy. So yeah, because what can happen is that according to the threshold. So see here, according to the threshold that I use here, this note. So there's no snare here. That's probably speaking something from the toms. But so I don't want this track to be split right here. So what I'm going to do this reduce splits. So see, so I reduced one of them and the two of them. Okay. If I do too much, it's going to ignore some actual snare hits, and that's exactly what I don't want. I just want it to ignore stuff that is not supposed to be interpreted as a snare hit. So everything looks fine. Everything looks fine right around here. I'm going to go back a little bit on the zoom, or that would take a long time. Okay. Not misfires, which is great. Everything looks good. Okay, everything looks great. So what I'm going to do is also I'm going to action to perform. I'm going to split selected and grouped items. So I'm using only the snare as a reference. So, but it's going to split all of the tracks where there is a snare hit. So split, as you can see, splits all of the tracks. So now I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to use the kick drum as a reference, and I'm also going to split. So I'm going to go here and just look. Not a lot of crazy stuff going on this track. Okay. I don't know if I'm going to show like, because this is done after the fact. These tracks are already edited and done and sent to the studio. So this is just me redoing it just for the sake of showing how the process was. Okay, great. I'm going to split all of the tracks. So what I'm going to do now is going to come back with the grid, and I'm going to do this. Now I'm going to go back and selecting one item, selects the whole group, and I'm going to do this in sections. So let's do like this whole A section. Well, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, because I think there's only like eighth notes. Yeah, I guess only eighth notes. So I'm going to press Q. Is that Q? What is the actions? One ties. Oh, it's W. Okay, so I'm press W, and then it's going to ask me because what this is going to do is going to put all of the starts, all of the splits. It's going to snap them to the grid. So now it's asking me with which uh, figure I wanted to do. So I'm going to do eighth notes process. So let's listen. So it's going to be a little bit choppy. So now let me just do a Control Z for you guys to listen to how it was. And now quantized. So great. That's great. I usually go and see if we have something that's far off or in the wrong space. But for all intents and purposes, for now, I'm going to just go. I'm going to go as if everything is fine, which I think it is. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually how was I did this like 2 months ago. I actually edited all of the songs, all of the 8 songs that I recorded on the drums in like a whole week. I did them in like a whole week, light speed. So I spent like pretty much all of my nights of a whole week doing this. So I was not like I was not worried about recording and documenting the process, but you know, I'm just doing this after the fact. So I'm going to go here. What is it's? Oh yeah. So if I press Control Y, which is a custom action. No, that's not it. Show action list. So Control Z. It's heal. Heal splits and items. So run. Oh. Well, what is? Oh, so it's fill gaps between selected items. So advanced, use less settings. What this is going to do? So as you can see, there are gaps because I'm a human being and not that good of a drummer, to be honest. There are gaps when I quantized when I snap everything to the grid. There are gaps because there are notes that are a little bit after or before the snap. So when they go and snap, there's a gap before them. So I'm going to press Control Y, which what it does is goes and fills the gaps are here with the tails of the takes. So here we have a gap. What it's going to do is going to pull this end here to this part in a natural way. So I'm going to press it. I'm going to do the command. And it also pushes, so I'm going to Control Z, and also pushes this part. Actually, it pushes the snap, the beginning of the snap a little bit to the left. So yeah. And it does a little crossfade, so instead of being choppy, now everything should sound better. So So that's pretty much what was done. So, now this is a good example. So, see, I'm going to take off the grid. On this track, we have 2 kicks. Also, in this. So when I ran the splits, actually, I'm going to have to unselect. So when I ran the split function, it didn't register those kicks. So I see that there's a problem. I just split them here, and I'm going to once again selecting one track selects the group. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go here. And then I'm going to press W once again. Eighth notes. But you can see here. So here there's a drum fill. So let me bring back the grid. So again, I'm going to unselect this. It's on the second rack tom. And 2 hits on the second rack tom. And 1 hit on the third rack tom. So I'm going to also come here. And now I'm going to use the tom track as a reference, split, and also this one, split. But because here, so I'm just going to select everything. I'm going to press W, but now I don't want them to be 8th notes. I want them to be 16th notes. So yeah, so you have to be very careful with the type of musical figures that when you're editing like this. So again, same thing here. Now I'm going to use split 2 notes. Again, W, and then so we have a drum fill here. Again, W. Oops. And now this, and so it's not saying this hit. So what I'm going to do is manually split at this point. So now I'm going to go here, select all of them, W, 16th notes. And now we are here at C. So now what I'm going to do, so it did all the B section. So again, Control Y, and then it heals the. Actually, let me put some effects. I mean, I think it's better if. Yeah, nice. Great. So this is what I did for all the tracks. So I did everything in sections, and sometimes you have to quantize things in 8 notes, sometimes in 16 notes, sometimes in triplets. So that takes a lot of work. After this, after everything is done, what remains to me was to put. So I already know the kick and drum and snare drum samples that I want to use to blend with the original ones to thicken up the sound. So after all of this is done, then I have to come to the grid and put a note, a kick. So here's the kick, here's the snare. Every single moment that there is a kick or a snare hit. So let's only listen to the original parts. And now let's see how the replacements sound. So every time that there's a kick in the grid, I put a kick note in the grid, a replacement kick, a triggered kick. And everywhere that I have a snare, I have to put a trigger snare. You might ask me, well, Alex, could you just use a plugin to, to use as a trigger mechanism? Yes, I could, but I prefer to do everything by hand, so I can just render the tracks. Because if you use a plugin to do the work of triggering the kicks and the snares, it works when you're listening to it, but when you render to the file, there might be a note missing because of the threshold that you set was it ignored a couple of notes, so you have to come back and either manually put the notes or manually change the threshold to the point that every note is audible. So I just prefer to do everything by eye, and because a lot of this is repetition, so I can just copy and paste a lot of this for parts that have similar drum parts. So, I did a very, very light pass on effects. So, this is how the drums sound after they're edited. And this is after we put a little bit of EQ and gate, but not the final sound. This was just for me to have a better reference, for me to record the guitars and drums on top of. And now with the trigger, kick, and snare. And even on the drum fills. Nice. So yeah, that's pretty much it. After I did this on everything that's a hit, that has a real strong transient. So that being said, snare drum, kick, toms. Sometimes if when I do that, because it moves the whole take, sometimes it can move either a cymbal or a ride or a hi-hat hit a little bit off grid, so I might sometimes do a little bit of a split and put that hi-hat note right on the grid, so it sounds better. I put the hi-hat note, the ride note. Sometimes I do a big uh, crash. I crash both cymbals, but they're a little bit like out of the grid. So I just pull them or push them a little bit, so they, that's all of this. It's in order for the record to sound better. You know, I know my limitations as a drummer. I know a lot of bands that don't even like use metronomes. Like Machine Head, I'm pretty sure that they never use click tracks to record, and their drum sound was killer. It had fluctuations in tempo, of course, because Dave McClain, who was the drummer of Machine Head for a long time, he's a human being, but he's a great drummer. So, he does killer tracks. He's a pro. So the fact that they didn't record with a click track doesn't really make a difference. But to me, I have a vision for what I want the drums on my record to sound. I want them to be precise. I want them to, be when I'm going to record the bass and guitar parts. I want them to be very precise and everything to be, everyone to be on top of each other. Every instrument to be on top of each other. So, this, everyone does this. It's like tuning vocals. Everyone tune vocals. Unless you're doing like only screaming, everyone like does editing, because editing is necessary for you to polish the raw work, into the final vision that you have for your sound. That being said, thank you. Oh, this is not. This is my Twitch thing. Uh, that being said, thank you very much for watching this. Uh, this video on how the drums were edited. It's just a snippet. I was just like 25 minutes of it. I spent, I'm pretty sure, like 10 to 12 hours doing the whole album. And I have to come back to do a couple of finishing passes because I will listen it. I would like render some pre mix takes for me to listen to, and on my way to my job, do I go to my commute. I walk to go to my workplace, so I render the tracks for me to listen to know how the mix is flowing. The pre-mix is obviously because the people who are going to do the actual mix are the people at the studio, and sometimes I would listen and be like, oh, I miss a snare here. Oh, I miss a kick here. So I will have to go back to the project and manually add that uh, either a trigger kick and snare, or I'll be like, oh, this right cymbal note here is really like off, or this hi hat is off, like off to the point that it bothers me, because the really fine editing, like going looking at hi hat transients and sidebone transients and putting them on grid. I only did that on sections that I felt that would bother me. So I did a couple of polishing and finishing passes. I'm going to probably on the playlist of the making of the record. I'm going to put this between the drum recordings and the guitar recordings, because that makes sense, because this process was done in the middle of recording drums and guitar. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope this was an interesting peek, an insight on how the record was made and how a record is made, because everyone, as I said, everyone does this. So yeah, thank you very much and have a great day. See ya.